Getting ready. Everybody who's coming in on Facebook Live. Ooh. That's not good. We're getting that sound again, Lee. Is everything? Oh, is it something with the headphones and the? Okay. All right.
Yep.
Yeah, we're not live yet on Armed Radio, but I think we're. Okay. Red.
Oh, hi. How are you? Red.
Good. Orange. Oh, I'm orange. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Okay. All right, let me check in with Jimmy. So now we're allowed to talk, right, Lee? She just counted. I love it. She counted us down. We're waiting for for Facebook Live people. We're waiting for the Armed Radio people. Jimmy's going to let us know when we're live. I have my guest tonight is Jimmy also, but our sound guy is Jimmy too. You're like, I'm gonna let us know when we're live.
I'm duty today.
No, you're good. But I see a couple people have come in on the Facebook Live. I see Keith. My Keith, hi, my love. Now, I'm hearing go ahead and turn that down. Because then you'll be able to watch it, but you won't be able to listen to it. Because then it's going to, double through the whole.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to share it, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's cool. You can totally share it. So, hi, Keith, my love. I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that people are trickling in. We're just waiting for Jimmy from Armed Radio to let us know that we're going live with the Armed Radio peeps, our audio peeps. You guys that are on the Facebook Live, you can talk to us, you can interact with us during the show. I'm not going to tell you what's going on because I want to wait for and I see Noelle. Hi, Noelle.
Hi, Noelle.
Noelle, she's a landmark friend.
Oh, hey, girl.
We are live. What's up?
What's up?
Welcome to Ask for Candy, where a bunch of powerhouse men and women get together online to talk about love, sex, relationships, and what it takes to be amazing on the daily. Who I am Candace Harper, lovecoach.com. I help hardworking women and couples who have survived abuse be vibrant, alive, magnetic, and passionate while creating healthy, intimate relationships. And I am coming to you from the amazing Gotham Podcast Studios on 38th Street in Midtown Manhattan. And the theme of this summer's podcast is Badass Bachelors. Are you a badass bachelor? If you think you might be and want to be an August guest, plug your wares and possibly meet some ladies or gentlemen. Stay tuned to the end of the show to hear the criteria. But first, happy Monday, everybody.
Happy Monday.
So you're listening to Armed Radio, maybe on your smart device with the TuneIn app, or you're listening in the garden on armedradioglobal.com. We're also on iHeart Radio, so don't forget to follow us and download your favorite shows. And for the streamers, we're also available on Spotify and Spreaker. Or maybe you're live here with us on Facebook. I see Keith is here. I see Charles is here. I saw Noelle earlier. If you are here, you know that we love it when you talk to us and you interact and you get into the conversation. We also love it when you join the groups. So you can join Armed Radio Group News and also my group, Ask for Candy Podcast. So go ahead and join those and you'll know whenever we're going to go live. You'll know every Monday night, when we're up. And speaking of that, this is the time when we share. I'm about to share to the Ask for Candy Podcast. Where are you going to share to, Jimmy?
Share. I'm sharing to my Facebook family.
Oh, I love that.
And I should share to my page, The Avocado,
Yeah.
on Facebook.
Yeah, I love that. And you're gonna have to tell me later why your page is called the avocado. But you can mute while you're sharing too, though, because we don't want to have like the feedback of the show coming through the mics.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out.
All right, so now I'm going to share to Armed Radio Group News. And the Armed Radio people who are out in the ethers, in the audio, listening to us, you know that there's a ton of really great podcasts on Armed Radio, and we're one of the many, and you can always find out when we're going to be on and who's going to be on and all of that stuff if you're part of that group. So join. Be a joiner. Anyway, like I said, I am Candace Harper, lovecoach.com. My talent is conversation, my passion is personal growth, and my purpose is to teach and inspire radical self-acceptance in myself and others so that we can all have our best possible love life, right?
Yes.
And that is why this is a conversation. We're not here to hand down a bunch of dating and relationship rules or the rights and the wrongs. We're not here to shame your love situation. We do not believe in shame, honey.
No shame, honey.
Right, no shame. Our only intention is to create audacious intimacy, seductive singlehoods, and healthy relationships. So tonight and every Monday night, we're going to do what we do, which is do what we do. Make it do what it do. Which is to have conversations that engage, educate, and or enlighten all of us in the areas of love, sex, relationships, and vibrating high. Right? Yes, honey.
Yes, honey.
Which brings me to my very special guest tonight. Who I want to introduce. My Jimmy Allen. I feel like this day has been long in coming.
Girl, yes it has.
We've been meaning to sit down for a long time.
A long time, yes.
Yeah. And you know how it is when you know someone on social media. It's like there's a couple messages back and forth. There's I'll see you. We should get together. We should have coffee.
Yeah.
When are we gonna network? You do the whole thing.
Yeah, you do the whole thing.
But we made it happen.
We made it happen.
Yeah, we're like face to face.
This is like really, I'm like a long time coming. It's like I need to like speak to her. I need to work with her. I need to like collaborate with her.
I love
and
that.
it's happening.
Hello, Kitty. Hello. I love it. And you also do a podcast too, so we'll get into that too.
Yes.
But I want to tell the people some things about you. Based on what you told me about but I want to share. I want to share about Jimmy. So Jimmy is originally from Miami, Florida. We love Miami. He moved to New York to be an actor, and years later, coaching found him. He recently had the privilege of studying with Catherine Woodward Thomas, who is the author of the New York Times best-selling Calling in the One.
Yes.
We're going to get all deep into that.
Calling in the One.
Right? And when he discovered Catherine's coaching program, he knew instantaneously that this was what he was meant to do. And after completing the book, Calling in the One, in 2017, his own love life shifted dramatically. We're gonna have to get into all that too, right? So he discovered how and why he was choosing men who were emotionally unavailable and ashamed of who they were as a man. I can't wait to talk about that. When Jimmy tackled the source of that issue, it changed his life. He fell in love with himself and what he had to offer. I'm all about that, falling in love with yourself, honey. He discovered that his capacity to love was vast. And Jimmy started focusing on becoming the one for himself and for the man that he met while reading the book. Oh, we're going to get all up into your business, honey.
Get up in that business.
So say hi to everybody, Jimmy.
Hi, Vince. Hi, Fitzgerald. Hi, how are you guys?
Yay. And so we have Vincent who has joined, we have A. Fitzgerald Hartnett who has joined, and David Katz who has joined, and Charles. What's up,
Hi.
Gentlemen? It is a pleasure to have you. As always, you can participate in the conversation as we're talking. You can ask us questions.
Yeah, and it's good to see men,
men.
on these podcasts and getting to know what it is to take to be in love or be the one for the love of their life. I really love when I see men show up and want to transform themselves for their own love life.
Absolutely. Actually caring. And because I think men get a bad rap.
They do.
Right?
They
about
do.
whether they care about transformation or whether they care about growing themselves. I think people assume that they don't, but in this day and age, I don't believe that's true.
Yeah, it's shifting in the world.
It's totally, it's a good positive shift. And Nikki, hi Nikki. So we do have some feminine energy that's coming in too.
Oh, balance.
Which we welcome. So Jimmy, you have been kind enough to come and be willing to share yourself.
Share my life.
Share your life and open up. And as you know, we talked about it a little bit before. What we do here is the vulnerability quiz. But
I'm
because,
so curious.
Are you curious what the questions are? Because here's the thing. You are coming on as both Badass Bachelor and Love and Relationship Coach.
Right.
So your vulnerability quiz is a little richer. It's a little bit more like, I want to hear more about your purpose and the meatiness of what you do and all of that. But we want to deep dive into your personal stuff and,
Okay.
we just take it natural and what feels good.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel like you're game. I feel like you're
I should have me a wig too.
Little hair flip never hurt, honey.
I know.
Right? Okay, so very first question. What, Jimmy, is your purpose?
Oh, good question. Since I discovered Calling the One and did the certification and went through that whole thing, I know for a fact that my purpose is here. I am here to shift and change the way, specifically men, of how they love. And really break down barriers of how men love and saying that we are capable.
Yeah.
And I know that's my purpose, to bring more love in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me about when you do work with men, like one-on-one?
I do. Most of my clients are one-on-one.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And have you, as far as I don't necessarily think there's a big difference between how we come around to self-love and love, whether you're gay or straight. But do you work with both gay and straight clients, or what do you feel like what you're doing is it tailored specifically towards gay men, or is it open to everybody? Like what?
It's open to everyone. I would love to work with more men. Right, the majority of my clients are women.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just starting to work with more men. I'm just actually one of my new clients is a gay man.
Yeah.
I feel like more women and gay men are more open and averse to it, and sometimes not.
Yeah. That's interesting that you say that, because I do feel like, especially with things that are very, very growth centered and sometimes tied to the law of attraction, that it does take a willingness to be open to your feminine energy. Like we all have both, right? Like
right.
a feminine and masculine.
And that's really great that you said that, because when I say that to men, like, do you believe we have a feminine energy? They go, no.
Right.
It's like, no,
there's nothing feminine about it.
Right. We're not talking about you being feminine.
Yeah.
Like there's an energy that we have that sort of balances out relationships, and that's needed in relationships. And it's also helpful when you tap into that, especially either straight or gay, but when you tap into that feminine energy, like you're basically receiving.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love it. Okay. So what are you passionate about?
What am I passionate about?
I would say go for like that top thing that's like, you're just like, you live and die for it.
What am I passionate about? Wow. I would say I'm really passionate about like what I do, not just like say, like love and relationship coach, but I love reading books on relationships. I love reading books on how to be better human being. I love reading books on how to have emotional intelligence. Like my bookshelf is filled with those books, and maybe because I just became a certified coach, however, it's just like I'm really obsessed with those books. I'm very passionate because I want to give my best self to my clients and to the people in the world, because I know my purpose. I want to bring that best self to every single person that I meet.
I hear that, and I totally relate with that, because I've been a personal growth junkie for like the whole Like, I just want to mainline it, I almost have to like stop myself sometimes, because I could easily like be in a YouTube vortex all day long listening to Wayne Dyer and listening to Abraham and all the people that I love. And
and I would say one thing. I could say another thing. I would say I'm passionate about Italy. Like I love Italians. And I spent 3 weeks in Italy. I love Italian men.
What part of Italy?
I started off in Naples, and I went to Florence, then Naples, then I went to Genoa, where I had a friend of mine who lived there. It was a good friend of mine. Then I went back to Rome.
Oh wow.
And I was obsessed.
Yeah.
Like every day, like watching Italian movies, doing Duolingo, reading
Italian men, honey. Oh my
goodness.
goodness.
I mean, it's a different
I love
breed.
Italian men.
Different breed, honey, I
Yeah.
can tell you. And even now, and that's where the whole word, the avocado comes from. It's an Italian word based off the movie Agnale. And Agnale they called him the avocado, which avocado means two different things. It means the advocate and it means the lawyer. Okay. And so my friend gave me the name the avocado because she said you're an advocate of love.
Yeah.
Like you stand for love. You like I'm unwavering when it comes to people's...
A warrior of love, a defender of
right,
love.
of people's love. I said, no, this shall be,
Yeah.
because this is the intention that we're living into. I understand that you have that love life.
Yeah.
And, and this guy, Agnale, in Italy, he's the one who, when Italy was in turmoil back in the 80s, I believe, and this one man single-handedly saved Italy by creating the Fiat, and it really revived.
By creating the Fiat?
Yes.
The car?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What, economy-wise?
Yes.
Oh,
and so
wow.
the Fiat revives Italy, so that's what she said you do. You revive people's love lives, so that's how the name came.
The avocado for your business page.
Yes.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
I love that. The
Yeah.
avocado for love.
Yeah.
And avocados are my favorite thing in the world.
It's spelled differently.
Is it?
Yeah.
How is it spelled?
Avvocato. Avocado.
Avocado. So yeah, very Italian. I love that. I love that. I think, Bruce joined us. I think Eduardo. You know Eduardo Guzman.
Yes,
He's
Eduardo.
joining us. I see something. He tagged us. He might have tagged us in. Hopefully he's joining us on the
Yes.
live. Because I hope he jumps in. Right? Oh, here he is. He joined. Hi, Eduardo.
Hey, Eduardo.
Okay, so what is a true expression of who you are?
What is a true expression?
Yes.
I have. These are interesting questions.
I know, right? I'm getting to know you, honey.
A true expression of who I am. God, I don't know why this coming to the first thing.
Whatever comes first.
Oh
Follow your
God, I
instincts.
am I almost am embarrassed to say it, but I say Beyonce.
I kind of love that.
You
But
know,
go ahead,
it's
tell us
like,
why.
I always say she's like my spirit animal.
Yeah.
And I would say this, a long time ago when I first moved to New York, I had the privilege quote unquote, I worked in a production company, and I met this guy who was a producer, and I was like, well, why are you doing this like behind the house stuff? He said, well, I love to learn what goes on in the background.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what have you produced? He goes, well, I produced a beat for Wu-Tang, Woo-Ha. He's like, I created that whole thing. And he's been working with Destiny. He said, do you know Destiny's Child? And I was like, yeah.
So I know Destiny's Child.
I was like, yeah. He said, well, I produced one of their songs. He said, well, let me tell you. He was like, even though they're a great group, he said, Beyonce is the one to watch. He was like, she's the only one that's in the studio. She's not on her cell phone. She's not outside in the hallways. She's present. And she's there. She's hardworking. And she's unwavering for what she wants. So I say her because she's not competing with anyone else. She's always being what's better for her. How can she be better? She's always improving herself. People always knocking her down that she can't, I don't know, quote unquote sing, but she is paving the way.
Yeah.
And she isn't trying to prove anything to anyone.
Yeah.
She is all about her being better than her.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that is a effect of just being 100% living in your purpose.
Right.
And I always say to people, like, even if you're not a fan of Beyonce, like, this is not a Beyonce advocacy.
Right, yeah.
About, be in the Beehive. Even if you're not a fan of Beyonce, you have to be able to appreciate that she just is 100% living in what she was born to do.
Right.
Like,
she's definitely
like just
aligned with what she is out to do.
Yeah.
And I will share this quick story. I was reading this autobiography on her, and when she was
it unauthorized?
unauthorized autobiography on her, and there was this one story I remember so vividly. they flew her and another girl when she was doing Girls Time to the studio in LA, but Beyonce wasn't the lead at the time, but Beyonce had to learn all the other lyrics. She was just there to do the filler work.
Yeah.
And so the girl who was the lead didn't know all the words, was very self-conscious.
Yeah.
And so Beyonce was like,
I got this.
Let me do it.
She was like, let me do it.
And so they had been working on this one song with a girl for 2 hours. Beyonce sang the whole album in 4.
Wow.
And I was like, this girl ain't playing.
Yeah.
Since she was like 9.
Yeah. No, just in it. And I feel like, there are a lot of musicians that kind of, with music in particular, you can see that in people because Wayne Dyer always says, don't die with your music in you. So for different people, our music is not necessarily music. But I think because, you can watch musicians get famous, there's just certain musicians throughout history that you just know they're just living into, Michael Jackson, David Bowie, like you just know they're living into Stevie Wonder. Yeah. And I feel like it's such a beautiful example for, how we can all live our life no matter what you do. Yeah. Like even if you're a brain surgeon and if you give that kind of love and commitment to what you're doing, like how amazing you can be at it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I love that. I love that Beyonce is a true expression. I love it. I see Jerry joined us, and Ani joined us, and Tom and Bruce. Hi, you guys. Welcome.
Hi, guys.
Welcome. You're welcome to ask us questions and get into the conversation. Let's see next. Oh, I want to get into the whole calling in the one conversation because I feel like that's going to probably take up the most of our time, right? And I want to make sure that we have enough time for it. So, what would you say is the main gist of calling in the one? Just to introduce it to anybody who's maybe heard of it or doesn't know very much about it. Like I kind of had my preconceived notions before I did any research. Like, what would you say is the main, idea of it, the main concept, just to introduce it?
So calling the one is basically, a 7-week, program that's designed for you to call in the one, but the one is really yourself first.
Gotcha.
And basically, one of the main premises of the calling in one is that life is a creative process and that your thoughts, your choices, your assumptions, and your words are the tools that are either you are creating your experiences or you're creating your circumstances.
I like that.
And, and the second premise is that when you set a clear intention and you're committed to that intention, that you will become aligned with what you're out to cause for your love life. And the third premise of calling in one is basically, you probably heard this before, but when you alter your thoughts, your whole world will alter accordingly.
Yeah, I strongly believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really great foundation, just the understanding that changing our thoughts change. I mean, it's as a man thinketh, it's all that. Yeah, right? Like your thoughts definitely dictate your reality in a big way, thoughts and beliefs. So tell me, how you sort of got into this, how you went down that road, and mainly what your experience was with it. Because you said in your bio that you were able to call in the one.
Call in a one.
Call in a one.
Yeah.
Which here's the thing about that. I really believe in, a one. They say that cliche of reason, season, lifetime. And there are relationships that go on for, 50, 60 years or whatever. But I really do believe that whoever you call in from wherever you're at is perfect. Like that's exactly the person you need to be with. Even if there's somebody, like my last long-term relationship was somebody who had me very confronted with all my shit.
Right.
And I'm so grateful to that person because they had me so understand how much I wasn't loving myself and in touch with myself and accepting and caring about myself. So tell me about what your experience was with it.
So that's exactly Marianne Williamson always talks about, because they're really good friends, Marianne Williamson and Catherine Ward Thomas. She goes, love is there to shine the light on the things that you don't want to see, so that you can expand more in love.
Yeah.
And so calling in the one is basically so first of all, one of the key things is, how is life happening through you, not just to you?
Yeah.
So it takes you out of being a victim and making you allow you to be responsible of how you are showing up in your love life. And a lot of people don't want to be responsible because it's so easy to blame other people.
Totally.
So, with me, when I first did Calling in the One, this was after I did Landmark, and my friend was like, you gotta read this book. And I had no idea what it was. I just went on Amazon, I saw the reviews, and I bought it.
Yeah.
And it was like perfect timing, like really perfect timing. And I couldn't stop reading the book. And it really allowed me to see in every single relationship of how I was picking all these men.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest, the chapters talk about patterns. And some people have a hard time seeing that pattern. And one of my patterns, what you mentioned before, was shame.
Yeah.
Like I had no idea that every single man that I was picking had shame about being gay. Like every single one.
Was that something that you had also?
Well, here's the thing.
Attracting mirrors?
Right. So I was, I'm fully out. And then at the time I had a coach, and I told her this, like, I'm reading this book, and and I discovered this thing about shame, and she was like, oh my God, like, she's like, where else do you have shame about being gay? And immediately it was with my mom. Like I had never fully able to like tell her I was gay. Like here I am 39.
Yeah.
I was 39 at the time. I couldn't really tell her I have never told her about any relationship at all. And I broke down crying on the phone because it was the truth.
Yeah.
And
those truthful discoveries are
right.
very emotional sometimes.
It is. So when you discover you have this pattern, then you start to see, like, so when I picked these men, they wouldn't hold me accountable for who I was as a gay man.
Yeah.
Because
they were doing the same.
They were doing the same exact thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And also, it was directly affecting me in the sense that I wasn't fully self-expressed.
Yeah.
Like, even my first boyfriend, like, even he didn't want to do PDA. He would have all these rules of how we shared our life with his parents. It was all these things, and it really blew my mind.
Yeah.
And so I had to take responsibility of that, and I ended up contacting him. And I said, I didn't talk about the shame part with him, my first boyfriend, but I took responsibility. I said, you never had a chance with me. And in my mind that you were never the one, and that I wasn't going to show up anyway.
Yeah.
Because
I was too busy shaming myself.
I was too busy shaming myself, and I wasn't going to come out for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And because I had to do it for myself.
Absolutely.
And my coach, she encouraged me to write a letter, and she said, say all the things that say all the things that you're never going to be for your mother. And that was another thing of the Calling in the One, that when my coach said it to me, a part of Calling the One, you start to discover all these overt and covert agreements. And I didn't realize that I had these unconscious agreements that I had made when I was a kid to my mom.
Yeah.
Until I started reading Calling the One, and I had an agreement like, I will marry a woman.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that I was unconsciously
like keeping
that alive.
Yeah.
And my mom was keeping it alive too.
Yeah.
And it caused so much conflict in my relationship with her.
Yeah.
So therefore, I again couldn't be emotionally available because I had shame.
Yeah.
So it was so many layers in the relationship with my mother.
Yeah.
And so finally said everything I needed to say on this letter to my mom.
Yeah.
And I sent the letter terrified, you know what I mean? And she sent me a text, said, well, good for you, but I'm not, don't condone this.
Oh, wow.
And then...
Is she still in Florida?
She's in Florida, and then she wrote me back, said, I commend you for doing what you do. Then she called me immediately. She said, I just want to make sure that you're okay, and I just want to make sure that you know that I love you.
Wow. So she went through all her stages of like
within
of
15
grief about it. Within a 15
It was like
minute
very quick. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
that's amazing.
And literally.
That also is a testimony to her love for you, because you know some parents, whether it's about gayness or whatever, like if you admit something to parents that don't want to accept something, there are some parents that will go for years without being able to have that release.
But the key thing about that whole moment is that I had to have the willingness to say to myself, no matter how this goes down, I am now committed to being this man for myself in my life. Because if I want this type of love life, I have to be a stand for my own life. Absolutely. And not live for anyone else. And that's what a lot of the calling line is like what you said, that intention. I had an intention. This is what I'm creating my love life, and I'm going to stick to it. Yeah. And I'm not living my life for my mother or these agreements that I really didn't realize was holding me back anymore. Yeah, the history, the past. The history, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what I love about what you're saying too, and this is for everybody who's out there, because I think it's so easy to be like, oh, you know, it's a gay issue. It's so not, because as human beings, we can find ways to shame ourselves about anything. Right. You know, there's women out there that are shaming themselves because the way that they eat, they feel like they're not good enough for a relationship. You know, if you come from a family that had expectations on you, like you were saying, your mom expected you to marry a woman. You know, it's so easy to, when you've broken those expectations, to then shame yourself for that. So this applies to everything. I think the issues about us are just the tools. They're just the issues.
Exactly. But everybody has a core belief about themselves. Yeah. Whether they believe it or not, whether they know it or not, your core belief about yourself is running your life. Totally. And until you discover that core belief, it is going to run your life. Yeah. And, you know, case in point, I had a client in our first introductory session, I said, "You don't matter." And she stopped and she said, "How did you get that?" Yeah. I said, "Well, when you were a child, you didn't matter to your parents because you stopped engaging. They called you the black one because she was the dark skinned one. So you retreated. You
had other sorts of shame.
Right. So she was the only dark skinned woman out of her siblings. She was the only one with curly hair out of all her siblings because she was Indian, and so she was, you know, shamed because of like her curly hair and her skin. Yeah. So she always thought she didn't matter. So she played in the background. And lo and behold, she's in a relationship with a man who her feelings or anything did not matter. Ugh.
I believe it. I believe it because that's what we do. We believe that thing about ourselves, and then we just keep repeating it with other people and inviting it and having the same experience. And as much as we will say, this is not what I want to be doing, this is not what I want, it's exactly a product of what we believe in, right?
And what I'm hearing and what you're saying is, and what is so true, is like whatever you resist persists.
Oh, totally. I always say that. And it's so funny to me, especially with social media, because people are so much about like fighting things, right? Like, let's resist against this, let's fight this, let's fight that. And I forget who talks about, like, even with the war on drugs and the war on this, and, you know, like this, even racism. Right. It's like this resistance thing that we do, it just causes it to grow. Right. It puts a lot of energy and focus into places that cause the negativity to grow.
Even resisting the conversation about racism is perpetuating more anger and racism. Because of the unwillingness to have the conversation. Yeah. And it, you know, I mean, I know we're like expanding out to global things, but this is, you know, how it shows up individually and how it shows up culturally, I think. Yeah. Oh, I love that though, Jimmy. I love that you, like because here's the thing, I was telling you earlier, with this whole calling in the one process, I had preconceived notions, which I'm sure other people do. And one thing that I thought that's really beautiful about it in doing the research, and that it endeared me to Catherine Woodward Thomas, is that she called in the one, lost the one, and then a conscious uncoupling. But, you know, it took something to be able to, and I know this from my own journey as a coach, like setting yourself up as an expert who knows how to do things. There are always going to be those people that question you, and to publicly have
what you've set up to be a truth or a possibility for other people, and then to have it look like you failed at it.
Right.
Which I don't believe in. Like, I feel like failure is a positive thing. I know a lot of people think that, if a relationship fails and you can walk away and have learned from it, it's a success.
I've learned that, what you're just saying, failure is an opportunity for growth.
Yeah.
Any failed relationship is an opportunity for growth.
Yeah.
And if we start looking at each and every failed dating experience, each and every previous boyfriend or girlfriend as a learning experience, then it's an opportunity for us to grow and expand in the places where we are weak, you know.
Even in the relationships where you're in it,
right? Yeah,
and it's sucking.
Right.
That's so much opportunity for, like, what am I bringing? What am I generating? Like, why did I attract this thing? Not to blame yourself, not to beat yourself up.
It's so great what you just said, and I always say, and I was saying this to a guy today, I was like, how is your relationship reflecting back to you what you still need to work on with yourself?
Yeah.
Because you're definitely causing something over there.
Yeah.
And I've learned to always stop. Okay, it's like, how am I causing this person to react
to act like this?
To
act so ugly.
Because if we stop and say, what am I doing that's creating that over there?
Yeah.
And if we step back, then it's like an opportunity. It's like, okay, I see what I'm doing. I see what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't work right here, right now.
Yeah.
So I need to evolve this part of me because I'm hurting you and it's hurting my relationship.
Like, how can I get powerful in this?
Right.
Because here's the thing too, because I know that there's a lot out there about, like, victim blaming and all of that, and it's a very slippery slope, a slippery conversation. But for every experience, we do have some responsibility for what we're experiencing from other people.
Right.
Not that we're responsible for their actions.
No.
Like, if somebody hits you or something like that, you're not responsible for them hitting you. But being in a situation where that's what you're experiencing, there's something within you that is attracting that your worthiness or something that is saying that it's okay.
Exactly, and this is what I was saying to a guy I was coaching today. And he just could not get it.
Because it's a hard thing. It's hard to accept it.
He's in a three-year abusive relationship, and I said, why do you keep saying yes?
Yeah.
You broke it. He I'm not saying yes. I was like, yes, you are saying yes.
Yeah.
I was literally frustrated with him. Like, one of my core beliefs is like, I'm not good enough, and I almost fell into this
thing. He was triggering in
He was triggering me, girl. He was triggering me. Girl.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not a good coach. I can't coach him. And then he said it. And then I said, that's it. You're not worthy.
Yeah.
He goes, yes, I am worthy. And I said, if you're worthy, why do you keep saying yes to an abusive relationship? And the phone went silent. Because if you're worthy, you would not be tolerating that for 3 years.
Yeah. No, it's true. And this is not to discount anybody's experience, but it really does come down to, believing that you are worth something more.
And a lot of it comes down to, specifically with men, a lot of men, both gay and straight, are unclear what it is they want and need in a relationship.
That's so funny because I feel like men always say that about women.
No. I mean, there are some women too. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But from my experience, a lot of men
don't take the time to get that. But here's the thing: how often do we? And I love that we're going in a million different directions because there's so much richness.
I know so much
in this conversation. But how often, like, you think about your conditioning, you think about your culture, you think about this Western culture that we live in. How often is it supported that we just get clear about what we want? When you're a kid, you can write your Christmas list to Santa. Right. But, like, most parents don't know to say, like, it's important that you know what you want for yourself. Right. And it's okay that you want it because you're worth having it. And you can decide what that's going to be. You can choose for yourself. Like, how often do we get that empowerment?
We don't. I mean, it's becoming, like, as we talked about this before, it's a very new thing to say. And there's definitely a shift happening in the love world because, back in the 80s, you know, people weren't thinking about that kind of thing. There's like, do you
Yeah.
have a good job and do you have a house?
Successful.
Right.
Can you get a DeLorean?
Right. But now, you know, people have evolved.
Yeah.
And now people they want you to have a house, they want you to have, you know, financial stability, and they want to have, you know, somebody have them back, someone who can love me, somebody I have good sex with, someone who
Who's
can
aligned with me.
who's aligned with me, because it does make a difference.
Yeah. I want the people on the people on the Facebook Live. I see Mikey joined us and Drew. Hi, Drew.
Hey, Sarah.
Who tagged Lynn, and Sarah. Hi, honey. Sarah has a great podcast on Armed Radio too. I want you guys to chime in with what your experience was of understanding that you can choose what you want, understanding that you could. You know, from a place of worthiness, just decide what's right for you and decide what you want and get clear about that.
Yeah.
Because I do that a lot in my coaching. Like a lot of it is around, or there's a good section of it that's around clarity.
Yeah.
And just the willingness, because first of all, you got to be able to say I'm worthy of having it,
Right.
and then just the willingness to paint the picture.
Right. And I tell you what, like knowing what you want, what it does, especially, you know, if you're single out there and you've been frustrated with dating. When you get clear about what you want, you stop dating all the crap.
Yeah.
Like literally.
Like it's like you can't even.
Like you can't even like.
Right.
You just like bam, bam. You like start hitting. You're like no, no.
And it's
no.
not an angry thing.
No, it's not.
Because here's the difference. Because I'll tell you, when I was probably in my early 30s, the first time that when like chat rooms and dating rooms, you know, dating apps first started out.
Yeah.
And when it was kind of sketchy. I was very much that type of career woman who had a list of standards, and I had sort of an angry way of not letting people be good enough for my standards.
Right.
That's one thing. I don't think that's workable as far as having a healthy, loving love life, and I don't think that comes from a loving place. But when you allow yourself to get clear from a loving place, then it's like you don't even, first of all, you stop attracting what's
right.
you know not worthy of you and what makes your life unworkable, but also you don't have to be mad at someone for not being what you want. No. It's like it takes all that energy out of that.
Right, and here's the other thing, the beauty about calling the one, which also kind of like, ooh, girl, you know, when you get clear, you have your list about what you want, right? And then she has this exercise. She said, well, I say, I want someone to have my back, and then you have to flip it. How do I have my back? I
do that in my coaching too. I have them turn it into I am statements.
I am.
Yeah.
Because what happens
is so important.
It is people have this expectation of other people when they're not that for themselves.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest conflict I find in majority of marriages, relationships, and dating.
Yeah. Because I feel like that's just it. We're taught to have the external fill us up. So we not only do that with food and drugs and things like that, with our relationships, it's like, okay, I'm lacking in these things, so I'm going to need a partner who's going to come with all of these things and, you know, be my better half, you know, come and bring, you know, the other 50%. Like that idea is so pervasive in a society where it's all about instant gratification and the external bringing to you. Right? It's so counterintuitive.
I mean, that really shook me up.
Yeah, that's I love that exercise.
Because it really showed me like, oh my God, I got some work to do.
Yeah. No, totally.
Oh my God.
But it changed, like, because when I did that exercise for myself, because, you know, just in my own coaching journey, I realized that was the thing. And just turning things into I am statements alone, because they then become mantras, they then become affirmations, right? Like that completely transforms your life to a point where it's not even about the partner anymore. Not that you know you don't still have desire to have a partner, but I think it just transforms everything.
Right, you know, and even Whoopi Goldberg has a whole book on it. It's like if he says, or they say you complete me, run.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's a trap. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Nobody can complete you.
Yeah.
You bring your whole self to the relationship, and the other person bring their whole self to the relationship. Yeah.
No, that's cool. I love that. That's awesome. Okay, so we were talking. We sort of touched on it a little bit. That Catherine Woodward Thomas also wrote the book Conscious Uncoupling. So you were saying that you did call in the one, and then, because I really want to get into how your experience and your evolution was with that too. And when you uncoupled with that person, have you experienced the conscious uncoupling?
Did I? I did,
Yeah.
you know, so I'll get into the guy that I called in. So, you know, I had, so I have a vision board. And my vision board is my list of things that I want to call in, and also the things that, you know, like I said before, that I'm
Oprah
gonna.
on it. It's got Oprah.
Oprah is actually.
Yeah.
So, you know, she's my girl.
I have Oprah.
I call her my fairy godmother. You know?
I love it.
So what happened was I was doing a calling one by myself, then I also, you can do it in groups. So I, you know, had two friends, you know, we met every week, and my friend said, "You're going to be the first one who meets somebody." And I was like, yeah, I'm just here to get my, you know, transformation on another life. You know, I'm not looking, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I was looking, but not like hardcore, you know what I mean? And so I was online one day and I saw this guy. He looked Italian, but he wasn't Italian. And I just sent him this like random like you have warm eyes or something like that, and he spent, you know, texting back and forth, and then we ended up, you know, meeting up. And when I remember our first date too. He's Middle Eastern, beautiful man, and you know, and this is the other thing, when you get clear about what you want, you can ask questions around the things that you're looking for.
Sure.
And so I immediately,
boldly, confidently.
Yeah, exactly. You know,
because you're not attached.
Right, you're not. Because, right. And I immediately knew that he was the one. Like, I can't explain it. It's just the way the conversation was going. He would say everything that I wanted about family, life, relationship, every, and I was just like, wow, he was just so open, and just the connection was just like unbelievable.
Wow.
And I remember going back to my call in one group, I was like, oh my God, I met this man.
They're like, we knew it.
And I was like, I'm freaking out because on our first date, like every question that I had, he answered. Like, I'm just like, oh my God, like that's what I want too.
Yeah.
You know. And I remember our second date, we spent 9 hours in the park.
Oh wow.
And I was just like wow.
Yeah.
You know, and it was great. And I mean, the sex was great. You know, the conversation was great. Super smart. He was very ambitious. Had my back. You know, wanted a family, wanted to get married. All these things. But then there was something that was there that I noticed, but I ignored. Like, I always got this thing from Oprah. She would say, you know, people tell you who they are from the very beginning.
Yes.
And like,
that's originally from Maya Angelou.
Oh, right.
Yeah, when people show you who they are, believe them.
Right, right, exactly.
Yeah, she used to always repeat that.
And I remember this moment, and I didn't had the language at the time to articulate what it was, but I remember sending him a video of Brene Brown on the power of vulnerability. I don't know why I did that, but that's what I wanted to send him. And nothing long, he was like, well, I know what you're trying to tell me, but, you know, that's not me. And I was like, But everything else was working out, you know, so I just ignored it, you know what I mean? And so we had, you know, spent this time. He was an executive chef in the Hamptons at the time, and I went up to Hamptons, you know. I mean, literally, we woke up at 7 a.m. and we're talking throughout the whole day, just like seamless. And I'd never had that before. You know, I was always in this like euphoric, like, you know, place with him. And I remember the next day when I was up there with him, he was like, "Why is it so perfect?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he was like, you know, the conversation is great. We don't argue. We don't fight. You know, we just get along so well. Like, what's up with that? And I thought that was very odd, you know, to say something to someone. And then I did get very triggered, you know, and then I finally said, because this is what you want and this is what I want. Because, and also, this is what I deserve. like it was the first time I stood up for the love that I want.
Let me ask you a question though, not to interrupt you.
That's okay.
Because there was something that you said when you said that you sent him the Brene Brown vulnerability thing. Was there a part of you, because I know that in my last long-term relationship, my way of fixing him was sending him stuff. And I was so much in fix-it mode. So I would send him like, videos I watched. I probably sent him some Brene Brown too. So like full disclosure, in your heart of hearts, was there a part of you that was like, I feel like I need to fix something here? Or was it?
No, it was, I just had the intuition about, I didn't know why I was sending him that video. I just wanted to see what his reaction, I just wanted to see what would lead from the conversation, because it was actually one of my favorite videos.
Yeah.
And every person I sent it to, we always had a conversation, and the unwillingness to have that conversation, like, kind of like, and I ignored it, like, I mean, maybe I was trying to fix him, I'm not sure, but I never, like, brought it up ever again, you know what I mean, because, when you're in Landmark, like, I choose him, that's, I'm always choosing him for who he is and who he is not, and that's how I was, you know what I mean, that's why the relationship was so great, because I was always constantly choosing him for who he is and who he wasn't, even though he wasn't giving that part of him to me, always. And so,
which brings up another thing that is a very, very hard, and I struggled with this because I remember when I was in my abusive relationship, we were both sort of in the Landmark world, and the choosing thing was big for me because, like what I was talking about earlier, like actually taking that powerful thing where you're saying, life is not happening to me, I'm choosing this thing. And one thing that I struggled with, and as much as I love the concept of, choosing something over and over again, and as much as I believe that, relationships that stay together for decades, it's because they've chosen each other over and over again. Part of the problem of being in that relationship, besides the fact of my relationship with myself, what was going on with that, was that I kept telling myself to keep choosing him. And it wasn't until after we got out of the relationship that I had sort of blurred whatever that meant, because the choosing of him over and over again was not working.
Well,
was not workable.
Here's the thing about the choosing. It's like, okay, I choose, like, say if we were in an abusive relationship, and I'm choosing you for who you are, who you're not. Now, in reality, that's who you are, and you're not going to change, and I'm not going to change you. Now, I have a decision.
I see what you're saying.
Am I going, now I know
try
that.
to change you, or am I going to like.
Am I either going to tolerate this, or am I going to leave?
Yeah.
So it gives you choice.
Yeah.
Now, like, am I going to stay here, or am I going to leave? Because now the reality is, you are who you are, you're not going to change, you're not going to waver, and I'm not going to put in the time to do that. Now, I have a choice.
Yeah.
Stay or go.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And, this is going back to
myself.
Right. With the guy who was coaching me today, I said, you're not choosing him from who he is and who he's not, even if it's an abusive relationship. Now, you have to ask yourself, why do you keep choosing it over and over again?
Yeah.
Because there's something he gives you that you are not, and you're trying to be right about something, and you're trying to fix him.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. He's trying to fix the other guy.
Yeah.
And the
I
guy,
was definitely doing that.
And the guy's not going to change. You know what I mean? And also part of, I would, go back a little bit with this guy I was meeting, and, this is the other thing about, calling him one, and like when she called her one, she never in her life imagined that she would date an African American guy, because this wasn't like, there wasn't many African American people around and stuff like that, so it wasn't even on her radar.
Yeah.
And like I said to you guys before,
this is Catherine Woodward Thomas?
Yes, Catherine Woodward.
She had a brother?
She had a brother.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Because she didn't grow up around black people. There was only one black person in her school.
Yeah.
So she didn't know to like look for that person. She just knew that this black guy kept coming around in her life, but she didn't collect in her mind. And I remember that, this moment before I met this guy, the one guy called in, I remember there was something happening in the Middle East, and I said, I can never date a Middle Eastern guy. And that's when it clicked. I was like, ooh, I need to give that up.
Yeah.
And sure enough, the next day,
You met him.
I met him.
Ah!
Like, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, because we always have those like rules we set on ourselves
Right.
based on things we've heard
Right.
and those identities and BS and bullshit.
Yeah, it's totally bullshit. And like, you know, any advice out to people out there, like you have to look at when you say things like that, you are directly stopping the love that's coming in your life because
what's possible.
love does not look like what you think it looks like.
Right, that's true.
And it is true.
Yeah, because as long as we're feeling like it's something that has to feed us, then it's like they gotta be 6'5",
Yeah.
and they gotta come and do this,
Right.
and they gotta be this religion, and they gotta and I'm not saying things like that shouldn't be important to you at all, but you're right. Like once you set those rules that that are external standards, it's
Right.
like you're attaching yourself to what you think that person's gonna bring you.
Right, exactly.
Right?
You know, I had
Not
a friend of mine who I was coaching, and one of her things was, he had to have good feet. And I said to her, are you kidding me? She's like, well, I don't want my sheets to get scratched up. I don't want my feet
My legs to get
scratched up. Like, he got good feet. And I said, you mean to tell me you're willing to give up a good man who meets all your needs for good feet?
Yeah.
I said, do you know how long does it take for a man to be emotionally available? Like, that takes work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He can get his feet done.
I was gonna say, an emotionally available man who's got fucked up feet can get his feet.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right? Like that's crazy.
You know
But
what I
we
mean?
do that.
Yeah, we do that. But anyway, like, we're short on time, but
I know.
the guy who I was calling in, it finally came out that he was in an abusive relationship before me, and he didn't trust. He didn't trust
some
that.
healing that
So he needed some healing. So even though you may call in the one, that don't mean that they're ready to be the one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or they're the one for that moment.
That he was the one for that moment, and
like whatever you have to take away from it.
And it really taught me because I had this belief that I didn't know what I could bring to the table could be great.
Yeah.
And when I really looked, even though I cried for like 2 months, and I really had to sit with what was this relationship teaching me? What was this relationship teaching me? And I was like, oh my God, like I didn't know I had this capacity to love.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that I could, everything that I've worked on with myself, I was bringing it to the table.
Yeah.
Like I had no idea until that relationship.
Oh, honey, I gotta put a pin in it because we're at 8:56. But that's beautiful. Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that you have enough time to tell people how to find you, how to work with you. We're gonna definitely put whatever links you want to put on the post on Facebook Live and even in the groups. But let people know where they can find you and how they can work with you.
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. You can find all my links on Instagram at Jimmy Allen. Or you can look in the bio with all my links to my Facebook, my podcast. And my podcast is on all platforms. It's called Crazy Juicy Love. It's on Spotify. It's on iTunes. It's on Anchor. And you can find me on my website, jimmyallencoaching.com.
Awesome.
And if you sign up for an introduction with me and mention that you were on or you listen to this podcast, I'll give you a discount on a calling in the one package.
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
Yes, honey. That's fantastic. So definitely hit Jimmy up. And you guys know, for the ladies out there who are, I have my mother-daughter intensive, right? 12 women, 12 weeks to get right with mom for the sake of your love life intensive. So if you've been surviving a painful or abusive relationship with your mother or with your daughter, and you're ready to throw out the emotional baggage and become vibrant, alive, magnetic, and passionate while creating a love life that lights you up and supports your happiness, just click on the link on my business page so you can apply. We can have a call. You can learn more about it. I don't think that, there's enough of the conversation of how, they always say we marry our parents. But, the mother-daughter relationship in particular, it's like, it's not just about attracting personalities that are like your mother, but it's also all of what we take on about our mother. And all of what we unconsciously, especially when we have a conflicting relationship with our mother, all that we unconsciously, like our body image, our, how relationships are supposed to go. There's just so much that we take on. And like we were talking about resistance earlier, even when it's not right and it's not workable, being in the resistance about it has it grow, right?
Right. And I would say too, like directly how we love is correlated of how our relationship with our parents are too.
Totally. Absolutely. Like that's the first sort of like example.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what we do on this intensive, and at the end of the first round, we're going to Jamaica, which is
yes.
right for a 4-day retreat. It's going to be like a yoga and transformation retreat.
Wow.
There's a ropes course. It's exciting stuff.
I put on my wig.
Right? Come on, honey. Right? Come be with the girls.
Yes.
All right, so we got 1 minute with the Armed Radio people. Armed Radio, thank you so much for being here. I love you guys so much. Until next time, never forget that you are a love machine, and if you ever start to feel like you aren't getting the love you need, just make more and ask for candy. And the same for you guys on the Facebook Live. I just thank you so much for being here. I don't know that you guys got a lot of comments and questions in, because this is a really rich conversation.
Lost time.
Right? But you can always come back later, and I do interact, if you want to be in the conversation later on, if you're on the post, watching the video later. And Jimmy, especially thank you so much for being a great guest.
Thank you.
You're going to have to be friend of the show. You're going to have to come back.
I know, yes.
Yeah, because we still have more. I feel like we have so much more.
We have so much more to talk about.
Right? Yeah. So you're going to have to come back in the fall.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to work that out. Anyway, I love you guys so much. Bye, Armed Radio. Bye, Facebook Live. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for being here. Bye. Yay. All right, I got to stop the video while the Facebook Live people are still watching. Bye, Facebook Live.